But where do you see the Xen going and Xen source within the Citrix? What are the things that are coming up, or what's your vision for the future?
Right. So, I think that getting Xen on every server, that should be the goal.
And just servers, or do you also want to go to other devices?
I was going to come to that.
Okay, sorry, sorry to interrupt you.
So number one is putting it on servers as they leave the factory and just having that, ubiquitous installed base of virtualization. And then the next frontier is some of the stuff that's happening on client machines, in particular mobiles and mobile devices, like laptops. And then I guess ultimately mobile phones, but just looking at laptops and desktop systems, there's a lot of cool things you can do with virtualization on client devices. There are a lot of things you can do to improve security and manageability. Also, to enable you to do sort of instant on of special purpose VMs. You might have a special purpose VM which will do web browsing, might be running Firefox or something like that, and it'll start up within a couple of seconds of you opening the lid of the laptop, so that you don't need to wait for Windows to come back from some suspend. And there's a lot of work going on in the Xen community of preparing Xen for clients. A lot of that work's already been done, and they're already beginning to see companies start to take Xen to market in the client space. And I think that's the next frontier, and one where we really have quite a leg up on VMware in terms of capabilities.
And what are the current bottlenecks for people that virtualize? Because I heard storage is a main concern for many CIOs.
Yeah, so this is one area which I think that or at least some of the products built on top of Xen do a really great job of. VMware had a particular model which they wanted people to adopt, where you take your storage, it might be some sort of fancy Hitachi array or even an EMC array, and you carve out one disk, and you format that disk with VMFS, and then store virtual machine disk images within that VMFS file system. And the storage administrators at large organizations just absolutely hate this model, because their whole job was doing the placement of thinking through, and right then, for this given application we need this kind of storage, and we need to have so many spindles involved, and doing all of that mapping. And then VMware prevents them from doing any of that, and just as a result you get horrible I/O performance. You're just not getting any of the advantages, not making any use of the smart facilities that might be built into that EMC or Hitachi array. And so what companies like Citrix are doing is really trying to do virtualization in a storage-friendly fashion, to expose the facilities that are built into those arrays, and to be able to call out to the array and get it to do things like snapshot a disk for a virtual machine, or to create a copy of that disk if you're cloning a virtual machine, to take one gold image and then deploy it hundreds of times. It's much better to get the storage system to do that for you, because these guys at Hitachi and EMC, they probably know a bit more about storage than virtualization vendors. So we figure that we're better off leaving all of that stuff to them.
Okay. Looking back at it, it was a smart acquisition from EMC. They acknowledged pretty quickly that virtualization was the way to go.
Yeah, no, a lot of people thought they were mad at the time, but
history proves it right.
They've done very well out of it. I think one of the things which is interesting is how little interaction there must have been between VMware and EMC, or perhaps that's the reason that they were spun out, the fact that they were not really making the best use of the storage virtualization that they had built into their products. So maybe that's why they spun them out. I guess they did pretty well financially too.
What do you think about SWSoft with your product Virtuoso? Well, SWSoft was renamed to Parallels recently, but they also have an open source version which is OpenVZ. It's a bit a similar approach between Xen and XenSource, an open source part, Xen closed source XenSource framework around it. They're working with containers. How would you compare Xen to OpenVZ?
Well, I think there's certainly there's room in the market for different kinds of virtualization solution, and I think what both OpenVZ and SWSoft's product, what that's doing is it's trying to provide the illusion of having multiple operating system images on top of a single operating system kernel. And that's certainly an approach that's been around for a while. It's very valid for certainly for some applications. It's very common in web hosting.
That's where they're coming from, through their plastic products.
Yep. Exactly. The problems with that kind of approach come about when you want to look at more complex applications, where the fact is an operating system or the interface between applications and the operating system, that's a very complex interface. If you look at Linux, hundreds of system calls, it's a very broad interface with very deep and rich semantics. And then inside the operating system, there's all of the state of the different applications are intertwined, and it's very hard to provide spatial and temporal isolation. So by that I mean that just spatial isolation of trying to keep these guys separate and stop them from being able to read each other's memory or corrupt each other or do bad things or crash the system. And temporally, from a resource scheduling point of view, if you want to guarantee that one particular application is going to get 10% of the machine, that's very difficult to do because there are so many interactions deep within the operating system kernel. And they've done a decent job of trying to unpick as much of that as they can. But at the end of the day, if the alternative approach is to run multiple operating system images, that gives you the advantage that you don't all have to be running exactly the same version of the operating system. So you can apply a patch to just one particular virtual machine instance. Also, the interface is much simpler and narrower, and as a result, it's more likely to be secure. It's much more difficult to break out from one virtual machine to attack another. So I think there will be, there's appropriate places to deploy both solutions. But I guess what I would say is that as the overhead of doing this operating system or virtual machine level virtualization goes down, the need to do it again inside the operating system actually becomes less and less over time.
So Ian, thanks a lot for being on Virtualization.com, and hope to see you soon.
Pleasure.
Another exclusive interview brought to you by Virtualization.com.